Well. I've been wanting to get this out for some time now, but maybe it's because of the end of the year and I want to go ahead and just make this video before this new year starts. But anyway, I think I have superhero fatigue. The reason I say I think is because I'm not really sure. So, we have all heard about superhero fatigue where, people who were very interested in the MCU, I'm going to say mostly the MCU because the other film studios that were doing stuff, their films were kind of like, let's play catch up to Marvel. So they didn't really have their own identity. And then the market was saturated because everybody was trying to be like the MCU. So I'm gonna say pretty much the MCU in terms of like superhero fatigue, and then I'll talk about DCEU a little bit. Um, so we gotta go back to, well, we have to go way back to 2019. Okay, so 2019 was the end for the Infinity Saga. It ended greatly with everything being resolved, every plot point or character story arc that was introduced was pretty much resolved for the most part in Endgame. And then after that, they started doing other things like Shang-Chi and Multiverse of Madness and Black Widow and Spider-Man No Way Home. And I was actually pretty big into the MCU for a while after Endgame. Some people gave it criticism. They were saying, oh, Endgame was the end, everything else sucked. And I was like, okay, well, let's see where it goes. So I think the last movie I actually did watch was let me see. I think it was Multiverse of Madness back in 2022 because obviously it was like following the very successful Spider-Man No Way Home, which got like $1.9 billion dollars, and it could have probably been the highest grossing movie of all time had it not been for China's censorship. They wanted the Statue of Liberty censored out in that final battle because it represented basically like American values and things like that, like liberty and freedom of speech, things like that. So obviously China is very strict on that. They don't have the same rights as Americans have as far as like criticizing the government because you gotta remember they are communists. But anyway, I watched I watched that and I watched Multiverse of Madness and I was like, okay, Multiverse of Madness is pretty good. And then I think that was probably it. I don't think I really watched much after that. They came out with some pretty decent films like Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, which I didn't like that they killed off T'Challa. I think they should have. I mean, obviously, we know in real life that Chadwick Boseman passed away. I think they should have recast him because he was a fan favorite. Um, I think he was introduced in was it? I think it was Captain America: Civil War. I think, and yeah, he was a fan favorite. Like I think the fans responded really well to Black Panther, and especially people that didn't know him beforehand. Um, I think really liked him, and so I wish they would have recast and just like continued his story, but they didn't. So I didn't see that one in the theater. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was actually pretty good. I didn't see that one in the theater either. So, you had all these films that were decent, coming out, but it just seemed like the passion was gone. And, I never really went back to watching the MCU, like going to the theater, like it was an event like it was back in the day. So that's why I think I kind of have superhero fatigue. It's not that their films are bad necessarily. I just think that they don't have the same direction that they did before with the Infinity Saga. And obviously, this multiverse saga it's getting bigger, and the stakes are going to be higher because they're bringing in Doctor Doom, and he's going to have a part to play in this multiverse. There no more Kang. It's just going to be Doctor Doom. I wasn't a big fan of Robert Downey Jr. being cast as Doctor Doom because, for obvious reasons. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know about the superhero genre going forward. Like I said, I think the last thing I watched in theater as far as a superhero movie was 2022, and that was Doctor Strange 2. DCEU, before they ended their universe, a lot of that stuff looked pretty good. I just didn't go see any of it. I was just like, kind of over. Well, I think DC actually killed the hype for their own universe because Warner Brothers came out and said, well, we're going to reboot our universe now. And then James Gunn came out and said, don't go watch any of these films. He's like, don't go watch Aquaman 2 because it's not going to be part of my universe. And then nobody really watched Aquaman 2. And then nobody watched Shazam 2. And nobody watched Blue Beetle. Because after The Flash, they're like, okay, we're going to reboot. And The Flash was supposed to be like a soft reboot in a way. I don't know how they're going to explain it in the new universe because it's not going to be Ezra Miller. They're going to bring a new Flash in, but the new universe starts with Superman Legacy. That's the thing. And we've now seen we've seen photos, we've seen pics, we've seen a trailer for Superman Legacy. So we'll have to see how that goes. If it fails, that's not a good start, but who knows. I'm hoping it succeeds. I'd like to see DCEU, or DCU as they call it now. I'd like to see them be successful with the new universe. As far as Marvel goes, with Fantastic Four First Steps, I'm a little bit excited about that. Just in the sense that if you look at the Fantastic Four movies, not so much the movies, but like if you look at the old TV shows, which was kind of like my introduction to the Fantastic Four, was like the 90s TV show. It's basically sci-fi adventure stuff. If you boil it down, it's sci-fi adventure. So I think I would be interested in Fantastic Four First Steps if it's like a sci-fi fantasy adventure movie. But as like a traditional superhero movie, I'd have to say I'm not too interested in what the MCU is putting out right now. We'll just have to see where it goes. So yeah, that's kind of like my thoughts on like superhero fatigue, which again, it's the idea that people are like sick of superhero movies because they saturated the market and everything's pretty derivative of previous films and it's all predictable. So the whole sentiment of superhero fatigue. So I'm not gonna say I'm totally like falling into that camp of being somebody who is like sick of superhero movies, because I do like superhero movies. It's just that it's not as interesting as it was before. So again, I'll probably still check some of these movies out. And 2025 is going to be exciting for sure. You have some pretty big releases again with DC Universe starting over, fresh slate, clean slate, and with Marvel introducing the Fantastic Four, which is a huge component of the Marvel universe. So we gotta see, once they're introduced, like that's a game changer. We gotta see where the direction goes once they're introduced. So anyway, that is my rant on superhero fatigue and the upcoming films in 2025. Let me know what you guys think.